Hello! Today I'm doing my 21 questions for 2021. It's just a fun little video that a bunch of costumers are doing right now in preparation for Cozy, the costume symposium that's happening here in August. I'll link that Facebook page down below for you. It's just going to be me answering a few questions to help you get to know me as a costumer and maker. Here we go! My favorite genre of costuming is fantasy, anything whimsical that I can do more creatively than accurately. I like historical stuff, but I like more historically inspired stuff. So I'd say generally fantasy is the umbrella I work most under. Well, both of my parents do costuming in some way or another. My mom made all of the Halloween costumes for my brother and I just forever, and my dad was really into living history and made a bunch of his own costumes throughout my whole childhood. So it's just something that I was brought up around that always looked exciting and interesting. My dream event is a giant 33rd birthday party that is done up like a Hobbit party from Lord of the Rings, like Bilbo's 111th / Frodo's 33rd. Hobbits celebrate the double, like the alliterative numbers, if that's a phrase. I'm turning 33 soon and I am making this dream event happen. Big Hobbit party, space rented, everyone in fantasy costumes. It's gonna be great. It's gonna happen. I'm very excited. The project I'm proudest of is probably this patchwork coat I made for a youth production of James and the Giant Peach. It is a reversible patchwork frock coat. It is what inspired the Mad Hatter coat that I just made for that costume that I'm working on. I'll link those videos up above and down below. It was one of the first times I'd done a fully patchworked garment, and I used fabrics that were already in stash because we didn't have much of a budget. Maybe it's just that whole show actually. That was fun, but specifically this one piece, it was a bunch of fabrics that shouldn't have worked well together, that should have pulled all funky and just looked terrible, and I made a cohesive coat, fully patchwork both inside and out, so the character could have his magic and non-magic personas in a similar coat. Anyway, pictures of it all over wherever I put them. The project that taught me the most is probably this Beetlejuice costume that I made. It was one of the first garments I made off of a more historical method use pattern, and there's just so much to learn in the world of historical sewing. So that was a lot, on top of the fact that I created this striped crazy fabric. You can find out how I did that in one of my first videos here, where I made a skirt using the same. It's linked everywhere too. But that project just taught me so much just about sewing in general. I would like to say I'm Team Trace pattern pieces because I think it would be great to have a catalog of every size of pattern that I've ever purchased, but in reality I just cut those things out as soon as I get them. I do not have the patience or the resources to trace every pattern that I get, so wish I were Team Trace, but am realistically Team Cut. Both. I use pins for some things and pattern weights for others. I use pattern weights a lot when I have like large shapes without any intricate details that I could do with a rotary cutter, because I prefer to use a rotary cutter for weights and pins for scissors. I don't know why. You could do either, I suppose, but I do a little bit of both. When I have a tight corner, I prefer to use scissors and therefore pins, but when I'm doing just a long straight line or a big curve, then pattern weights will do for me. skill that I would most like to learn is leatherworking right now. I've made things with leather just using techniques that I'm familiar with from other disciplines, and they've been okay, but I'd like to learn how to do leatherwork properly so that I can make really cool things. I think leatherwork just opens up a whole new element of costuming, and I would like to get there. I have this fabric in my online basket right now that is a like quilting cotton, but it's all these pretty little reef cartoons. I'll link the fabric down below. And I really want to turn it into a dress to wear for my triumphant return to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is just now starting to reopen. And I'm a member, so I have my tickets already, and I'm very excited to go back, and I want a themed dress for it. I just need to buy that fabric and get it made. Too many. I haven't done a lot of stuff from before the Victorian era, and I think I would like to try my hand at more medieval or maybe Renaissance era costuming. So maybe that'll be next on my list. I definitely would like to give it a try, but we'll see. Pandemic has changed so much about how and what I work on. I used to costume a lot of community and children's theater before the pandemic. I designed and costumed 10 shows in 2019, which is a lot. It's a lot of time spent sewing costumes for others. And obviously since the pandemic started, theater is not happening to the extent that it was. And there aren't a lot of costumers for Zoom productions. None of the theaters that I'm a part of has done Zoom productions at this point anyway. I've just had a lot of free time, so I have mostly been sewing for myself, which has been a change. I've been able to make a lot of cool things just for me, which has kind of been nice, and I've been able to set up this YouTube channel. So it's changed a lot, but not all in bad ways. This past year I learned how to work with resin, and that has been a lot of fun. I haven't made a lot of costumey elements with it, but I have some cool like brooch molds that I could use on costumes in the future. I just feel like it's a good skill to have to level up any little object pieces I'm working into costumes, and I am glad that I have learned how to do it now. Ooh, the costume that I think I would most like to revisit is my Ursula costume, which I made for a production of The Little Mermaid that I played Ursula in 2016, I think. It's a little while ago. And the costume was made, of course, to stage specifications, what would look best from the back row, all of that. I would like to make an Ursula costume that is made for in-person viewing, so more detailed and just little things in it. I have some ideas. It'll be on the channel someday. I do a bit of both. I definitely have a fabric hoarding problem. I have a lot of fabrics that have spoken to me and made me take them home that I have no current plans for. But I also think of a project and then go buy fabric for it, which just compounds the problem horribly. So I have a lot of options. Sometimes the fabrics in my stash speak to me and I come up with a costume for them, like my Halloween costume last year, which is linked everywhere for you. That was mostly stash fabrics. I think entirely stash fabrics, so it's a bit of both. I use both scissors and rotary blades. I like them both for different things. It correlates to the pin's pattern weights that I talked about earlier. I prefer to use my rotary cutters for less complex shapes that are small enough to fit on my cutting mat, and scissors for anything I'm forced to use scissors for. I do have a sewing assistant. Her name is Cortana. She does an excellent job guarding my fabrics, and she is my main model. You can see all of her work. I will have her playlist of videos linked below for you. She has quite the portfolio at this point. I used to sew over my pins all the time, but the machine I am working on now has this little like curvy needle plate, and if it hits a pin it will just force the needle right into the needle plate violently and ruin everything, and I don't want to mess up my machine, so I take all my pins out every time. I like to sew barefoot or in socks. Don't really mind which, I just feel like I have more control over the machine. I don't like wearing shoes. Yeah. Most often I do tea. I don't really enjoy coffee very well. I love hot chocolate, but I try not to drink that frequently. So mostly tea. I like watching shows that I have seen a million times, so I can zone out when I need to, but I have something fun that I know I enjoy watching on when I am doing a tedious task that needs something else to keep my attention. So like Parks and Rec, 30 Rock, I'm doing Supernatural right now, a rewatch of that series, or just audiobooks. I've listened to the Harry Potter series so many times. I costumed a show once that got me through 2.5 full re-listens of the Harry Potter series. Just, you know, something that can be white noise or could be entertaining depending on what I need in the moment. Alright, that is 21 questions for 2021. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to see other CosTubers do this, go find some at the Facebook page that I've linked below. There are so many great people participating, and there are a bunch of these videos out here for you to find. I hope you have a great day. Bye. I have no idea what's happening in my brain right now. I lost everything.